This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Paul Smith Jr. here in Saudi Arabia. Paul, a regular occurrence for us coming out to Saudi Arabia for these big events and a big night ahead for yourself. How are you feeling?
I'm good, thanks, mate. Nice to see you. It's been the usual fight week here, really. Busy, and then a lot of downtime in the day, but it's a great place. I love coming over here.
Before we obviously come on to your brother, let's start off with Zizo. He's had some tough obstacles to come over at an early stage in his career so far, Paul. What would you make of those challenges, those results which haven't necessarily gone his way, and how he's coped with it all?
It's tough for him. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I say this all the time, and I say the same things all the time, and I probably sound like a broken record, but it's so true. When you've had no amateur pedigree, and you haven't had all these amateur fights or tournaments or just the general being around a top club or a good thriving amateur boxing club where you're sparring regularly, where you're working hard regularly. He didn't even really have all that equipment growing up, never mind the numbers in the gym or the good sparring or the good tournaments to enter. So he's got to learn on the job, and learning on the job means the right type of opponents. But when you're fighting on mega shows like this, you can't have someone coming in with 50 losses and 5 wins, so he's got to be matched a little bit tougher. And unfortunately, that's not going to allow you to learn as much on the road. You'll learn after the fight, but while you're in there, you should be able to pave your way and learn your trade on the job. And that's what he's getting at the moment, which is hopefully good for him. It started out tough for him, and the opponents have been, fairly matched with him, and at the level he should be fighting. Probably 3 fights later, but we're happy with the opponent that we've got for tomorrow night. He's in good shape. He's been in Liverpool in camp, sparring hard over there in Liverpool and training hard with Buddy McGirt in Four Corners, and he's really excited. He's a bit too excited. I've got to keep calming him down and chilling him out and letting him relax, and then tomorrow we can be let off the leash now.
I remember watching the first few fights of his career, and he was very aggressive, come forwards, just without sounding disrespectful or some type of boxing expert, not the most technical of fighters at the beginning of his career. How have you found trying to just help him and nurture that, and obviously Buddy helping him just kind of become a bit more technically gifted, shall we say?
His jab's quality. His jab is very good, and his defence is starting to pick up. He's got a cross-arm defence because of how he holds his body, and Buddy's an unbelievable coach. He's a brilliant boxing coach, and being around Buddy, Zizzo knows that, and Zizzo knows he's going to learn a lot of him. And he's just got to learn how to transfer the defence into offence after he's blocked a few shots, and he's slowly but surely getting there. It's always going to be a long process with him. He's always going to take his time to get there, but once he gets there, obviously then he's got all of this around him to really capitalise on that, and really this is all behind him, and he is their fighter. He's the Saudi Arabian fighter, and he wants to bring a lot of eyes to Saudi Arabia. He wants to become the first world champion from Saudi Arabia, but it's a long, slow process, and it's a long, slow burning road, but to learn the trade and to become a better fighter. But I'm really happy with him. I'm really proud of him, and I know it sounds a bit patronising or cheesy, but I've got a lot of time for the lad. I love the kid. He's a lovely, genuinely nice lad who's working really hard. He works his ass off, travelling to LA, Florida, Liverpool, London, wherever Buddy goes, whatever the camps are, he's there. If Buddy's in with Dylan White down in London, or he's with Dan Aziz, or if he's with Callum in Florida, or Callum in LA, or his fighters in LA or Liverpool, that's where Zizzo goes. So he has to travel, he has to get around, and his rewards are coming in by being on these big shows for all the hard work that he puts in.
Obviously, on to your brother Callum. Whenever I interview people about this fight, Paul, a lot of people say it comes down to what Callum's got left, because we haven't seen him be active over the last few years. Granted, the 2 defeats on his record are 2 of the best fighters in the sport, but when we haven't seen him rather in a fight with somebody like Joshua Buatsi, who's maybe just beneath that world level period. What do you believe your brother has left, and how confident are you that he can put on a show tomorrow night?
I still think obviously he's got it left, because if he didn't, we'd have told him after the last fight, after his loss. It certainly wasn't an age thing, and I feel for him because obviously the Canelo fight, it was 4 weeks notice, and it just sounds like sour grapes and excuses, and Callum isn't like that. Callum doesn't do that. The COVID time, getting over there fighting, and that's how Canelo is usually, or sometimes that's how boxing is. Look at Parker-Bakole getting a call this week, Josh Padley getting a call. You can't complain about it one hand and then celebrate it another. It is what it is. And then the Batavia fight, he got a rib injury in sparring and couldn't really spar. So you're going in there sort of under the gun and behind the starting line, so to speak, and it just is what it is. But you've got to make the most of it and give it your all. Inactivity isn't good, but the fact that he's had the little fight in Birmingham and he's on a bit of momentum now is a lot better for Callum this time out. And Buatsi's a good opponent. He's certainly not one that anyone's been looking past. Although I feel a lot of people have been looking past Callum, which is interesting for me, and I'm listening to the reason and I'm watching the reason, and I'm seeing people talk about resumes or Boatsi's is better than punch power. Yeah, Buatsi punches harder, or the amount of stuff I've read, which I disagree with, is frightening. But then you have to remember who's the type of people saying it or writing it themselves. So it's on whose opinion or what opinions you accept, rate or appreciate. But in my opinion, Callum's still very much there. He's still very much got it, and I think, as I'm saying, I'm hoping, and I think it could be a devastating knockout win tomorrow night.
One thing that we have seen with Josh is he's not untouchable. He has been hit quite clean in a number of fights. Obviously, Craig Richards had success. Willie Hutchinson, despite losing comfortably, he did have his own success in that fight. When you watch the two high-profile names, if you will, on his record and resume, does that give you more confidence that when you picture Callum in there, he can put more of a devastating impact into a fight?
Me personally, I've always, regardless of fights, I've always said Callum is the best light heavyweight in Britain, and I always wondered whether he'd get a chance to prove that by fighting them, because I always just thought he'd prove it by winning the world title or having a good go with Beterbiev and beat Beterbiev or beat Canelo or beating. We always assume that, or I always assumed that he wouldn't have to fight these type of fighters. But if he did fight any of these fighters, Buatsi, Yard, Lyndon Arthur, all the others who were around at the time or who are around at the time, I always felt personally that Callum is the number one out of all of them and is the better fighter out of all of them. Now he's going to get a chance to prove it, so it's up to him now. It's up to Callum, and I think he can prove it. I think he does prove it. But watching those fights, no, to be honest with you, I only caught like the highlights of the Hutchinson fight. I watched the Aziz fight. I thought it was a bit of a scrappy one, but I like both fighters, to be fair. I guess the thing, I've got nothing against Buatsi. I think he's a nice lad. I've always been respectful and vice versa. Same with Dan Aziz. I think Dan Aziz is a really nice lad. So watching the fight, it was like I've got no dog in the race as such, but it's an enjoyable fight. But them type of fights are local derbies as well, so you can't really judge the performance in them. I think on the day, and the best version of Buatsi and the best version of Callum, I think the best version of Callum beats the best version of Buatsi.
Just away from Callum, obviously Liam's just flown over here. He's 6 or so weeks. I'm trying to get my dates right in my head. 10 weeks, yeah. I'm all over the place. Yeah, it's been a long week, but 10 weeks out from the Aaron McKenna fight. He's been after a big fight for a while. Liam will go in as a big favourite for this fight. So, what are you expecting, and how important is it that we see an accomplished and dominant performance from Liam against Aaron McKenna, who hasn't fought anywhere near Liam's level previously?
Yeah, we have to see a top performance from Liam, and Liam knows that himself. Liam will be the first to say that. It's not us saying that. Liam, every time Liam fights, he wants to fight the best that he can and perform to the best level that he can and beat the best type of opponent that he can. Aaron McKenna's tough, young, hungry. Will not have to go looking for Aaron McKenna on fight night, and it's up to Liam to use his smarts, use his ring IQ, his brain, his power, his variety. Liam's, in my opinion, a few levels above. Obviously, I'm not being disrespectful to Aaron or not in there, but that's obviously how it is. But they're hoping that Liam's on the slide and he's done, and everyone else is looking at it as a crossroads fighter. That's technically an ideal crossroads fight if you're a promoter, isn't it? One young up and coming lad and one who's been world champion, who has had a few injuries and hasn't fought in a while. But again, if Liam's on it and Liam is fit on the night, which he will be, because he won't be found wanting this time because he knows what's riding on it, then Liam, fingers crossed, everything goes to plan, Liam wins well.
I know you never want to look too far into the future, but at this stage in Liam's career, what do you think he wants to go on to? Do you think he wants to become a two-weight world champion, or is it the big fights, the money fights now?
I don't know, possibly the money, but you can blame him if you've been world champion. Some people are slagging Trent Alexander-Arnold off for possibly leaving Liverpool. He's won everything there is to win. If he wants to go and secure his legacy and play in Madrid and make all that money and have a big contract, why wouldn't you? It's the same way, once you've been world champion, Liam's been world champion. I think if you offered him a top fight for £10 million or a world title for £1 million, I think he's going to take the £10 million, isn't he? That's how it is. You just want the biggest fights when you come towards the end of his career as well, with age, which all of us do. So he'll still want to be involved in the best fights, but whatever fight he's involved in will become one of the best fights because he's so exciting.
I want to throw a bit of a curveball out there, Paul. Just interested to get your thoughts on this. Obviously, we've seen everything that happened with Joe Parker, Daniel Dubois, Martin Bakole yesterday. So let's say if, because Liam's been in camp as well, say if Hamza Shiraz had some type of issue and he had to pull out, and at the last minute, on 2-3 days' notice, Liam had a call to step in. Would you have been happy to see Liam on 2-3 days' notice step in to fight Carlos Adames for what would have been a world title, and I assume a considerably even higher person, bigger person, what he'll get for Aaron McKenna?
I know what you mean, but it's a bit of a different scenario when it's not heavyweight. When you've got to make weight, it's a different scenario. And I don't mean that for Liam, I mean that for every fighter. Plus, Liam's argument will be, why should I go and fight him when I'm already on one of these shows and I'm already being paid well for the next fight that I'm having. And he's got irons in the finals. Listen, so is Bakole, technically. And after the win that he had in LA as well, I think he's very brave taking this fight. But he's been on social media constantly calling other people out. And I mean that in a nice way, because he's doing it in a relatively nice way, if I'm not mistaken, because I think he's a nice person anyway, and he's quite respectful, but he can fight, and he's a very good fighter. So I'm more looking at it from Joseph Parker's angle. If you're going to beat Martin Bakole, it's better getting him at 2 days' notice or 3 days' notice. Because if that's a 50-50 fight, if that's a long planned fight with a 12 or 14 week camp, I'd probably side with Bakole. That's just me personally, in my opinion, and I've been wrong before, but that's how I see it. So it's good that he's come over to save the show. But realistically, the show, even with 6 of them other fights on, would have been a phenomenal show anyway. Same with Josh Padley. Well done to him for coming over and filling the show. That one I couldn't argue whatsoever. He's getting life-changing money, probably 100 times more than he's ever got in his life. And I'm delighted for the kids that shook hands with him when he got in and said, "I made him feel like, well done, mate. Really got some chance here." It's an uphill battle, obviously, against someone like Shakur Stevenson, but it's different with the heavyweights. And with Bakole, it's not an uphill battle. He's not just stepping in for money. He's stepping in to fill a slot, thinking, I can still beat him at 60% if that's what he's saying he's at. So it's an intriguing fight, an interesting fight, but I just don't think it would have worked at any other weight but heavyweight, me personally.
Do you think, with Bakole then going into that Bakole-Parker situation, do you think for him it's just basically he's going to give it his all for 3 or 4 rounds and try and take Parker out? Because you would imagine his fitness might not be able to cope with Joe's, because Joe's been in full camp for 12 to probably 16 weeks.
I don't know, because they've sparred before, so they know each other a lot better than I know them. And if I'm Parker and I'm thinking that's all he's going to do, I'm going to stay off him for 4 or 5 rounds. I'm not going to let him come near me. I'm going to try and let him come near me and blow himself out and let him gas. Bit tricky and risky, but you're a former world champion yourself, so you should be able to do that. But tactically, I don't know. I think he'll come in and probably might want to conserve his energy and reserve a little bit and go through the motions early on, just try and make the rounds competitive, but don't have to really put your foot on the gas. And then once 4, 5, 6 is gone, start putting your foot on the gas then and start trying to take it over. Once he starts landing, he'll feel he has the power to stop Joseph Parker. But as I say, it's all good in theory. It's when you get in there and you start landing shots or getting hit, then you hear the crowd and then the pressure's on and then you start feeling a bit tired. Then it all gets real. So listen, who knows? Both fighters on the ball fit with a 12 or 13 week camp. Then I'd probably side with Bakole. As I say, this one it's a coin toss, but Parker should have the upper hand.
The main event, Paul, will it be a repeat or revenge?
I think it'll be revenge, but the last time I picked Beterbiev and I felt Bivol won. So this time I'm going to pick Bivol, and who knows? I think Bivol should have learned enough from that fight to think he's not invincible. I can't catch him. I can't outbox him. I can't take the power technically, although there was no big clean shots landed. But also not getting caught with big clean shots is down to your ability as well, and not just the fact that he wasn't hitting you. So I think he found an answer, Bivol. Again, I've been wrong before, but I'm siding with Bivol to do the job. Whether he gets the decision or not is another thing, because I felt, in my personal opinion, he did enough last time. But as I've said, there's loads of people whose opinions I really rate in boxing who scored it the other way for Beterbiev. So I've got no complaints. It was a really close fight, but top level fight and one that I really loved watching. That's the highest level, and watching 2 top fighters like that go at it was so exciting for any boxing fan.
Couple to end on, obviously the card that Liam's boxing on, Eubank Jr, Benn, this grudge match. What do you think happens? Who are you favouring?
I'm not really interested in it, to be honest. I haven't really had a look at it. It's not really something that I think it's a middleweight and a big middleweight against the welterweight who's coming up, and I don't don't think that'll be the case in the ring, if you know what I mean. It's not gonna. I'm not writing Conor Benn off saying that, but it's just one I'm not really going to be paying much attention to be honest with you. I'm really focused on Liam for that fight, and I'll be there and again possibly watch it. We never know, we'll see. But I understand why it's getting so many people worked up. I understand why there's so much interest in it. I understand why it's going to sell out, or why it possibly has sold out. I don't even know if the tickets have been done yet. It's something else. I was sitting on a couch watching the dads fight and loved watching them. I went to see Nigel Benn when I was a kid. Eubank when I was a kid. On a show when he was on with Steve Foster, I think. And loved them growing up, heard them, watched the fights, loved the fights. But the sons, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll be paying too much interest in, to be honest with you.
And just final one from me, Paul. Canelo and Crawford is being spoken about. If we get that over the line in September, is it a bridge too far for Terence just because of the weight disparity?
Possibly, yeah. It's not just weight. Obviously, Canelo's brilliant. Canelo's very good. We were talking about it before. One of the lads was saying if he stays orthodox, I don't think he's got a chance. If he boxes Canelo as a southpaw, he'll have a chance. But it's just the size. And Crawford's unbelievable. He's a brilliant fighter. Really respect him, and as is Canelo, and obviously full respect to him as well. But I don't know. I think it might be a bit of a step too far. I think weight limits are there for a reason. Usually, I think Canelo found that out the hard way himself when he steps up to try to beat Bivol. But yeah, I think possibly be a bit too far, step too far for Crawford.
Paul, I appreciate your time. I'll leave you to go catch up with your brothers, catch up with everybody ahead of the ceremonial weighing later. Thank you.
Time, mate.